All right, folks. Duke Machado here, Lexit Strike Force, and Tay. Look, the people want to know is, are we still standing with President Trump? I have Democrat friends. I hate to say I've got Democrat friends, but people that, let's put it this way, people that I know who are Democrats. They're trying to get me to throw in the towel on President Trump. They're doing everything they can. They're throwing all these things at me. But you know what? I'm still standing strong. And we're here at Lexit Strike Force. We're still with President Trump. We're going to get into some of these things and share our thoughts. We've got two of our Lexit Strike Force members on tonight to share their thoughts, David Torres and David Winkler. Torres, where are you again?
Westchester County, New York.
Okay, New York. And then David Winkler is in New Jersey. So we've got some East Coast action. I'm in Texas, and let's go ahead and welcome everyone to the program. David, this is your first time with us. Welcome, and first, why don't you just tell us what you're thinking about this campaign or this after-election chaos that's going on right now?
Yeah, so where for me to begin? So, after, the all this election stuff, where I'm at right now is President Trump has the legal rights and authority to go ahead and challenge the results, right? And people need to, and what I feel and I think the general consensus is, media does not get to call these elections, right? The delegates haven't even gone to the state and certified these elections yet, meaning that this is not called yet. So President Trump has the ability to continue to fight through the legal processes, through the courts, which should be done because of, what all the information that's coming forward and damning information that's coming forward about fraud from around all the, the different states here. Mm-hmm. And we need to let that judicial process play out here is where I'm at, right? We need to let that process play out and see where we go from there. It is my general thought process on this. And honestly, we need to start holding people accountable. When we look at these states, when it comes to these states and how much election fraud is happening and the ability to just blow it off and be like, 3,000 votes here, 3,000 votes there, it's my bad at the county levels and the states level. No, there needs to be some serious accountability and getting after that and possible indictments or fines or some sort of punishment for doing this. It's not the first election cycle that this has gone on. Multiple cycles are like this.
I will second that. I feel that as soon as it was all coming out, my thoughts are they've done this before, just not to this magnitude. And now that we know what we know, on election night we knew something was wrong, but we didn't know what. And then we were too tired to stay up all night long. But at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, these Democrats start piling in all these ballots. There's so much evidence right now, the way I see it. I don't need to see it. I trust the legal team has it. If they say they have the evidence, I trust that they have it. And I'm gonna say that the way that they're standing firm and saying this is our moment, this is where we make this stand. If we don't make this stand right here and now, we're a banana republic. The votes are compromised. In fact, our votes have already been compromised. We are already reactionary. We are responding to something that's already taken place and right under our noses. Torres, what do you think?
Sorry, I was just unmuting myself just in case. I'm the same way as far as just I was staying up and I was incredibly frustrated. And I agree. I trust Trump's legal team. And David, what you said, this is not over. Nothing has been certified. The Electoral College has not voted. It's just frustrating for me to see some people on, these so-called Republicans who are ready to throw in the towel or the Trump should, he should begin to transition of power. And it's so frustrating because, something that you have to, on some level, admire, that the Democrat Party, no matter what, they are always pretty much united. They are always, it is the party, it is their ideology, it is, forward on, no matter like all the craziness that and the dirty stuff that goes on with some of their candidates. It's like nothing to see here. We're all, one big group, and we're Democrats, and it just seems like the Republican Party, it's just always fractured, and just, we're always fighting amongst ourselves because, whether they're really Republicans or not. I mean, it's, they're going that way, just to try to get in, I mean.
What I think it is it's President Trump's style, what he said he's going to do and drain the swamp. The swamp is dirty, grimy, and it's not just local. It's an international swamp that he's probably realized the magnitude when he started talking with people like General Flynn, when he started understanding the complexities of the swamp and how everyone's tied in and everyone's making money. That's why half of the Republicans are, well, I'm not going to say half, but the never Trumpers, these guys, I know a lot of them because a lot of them supported Marco Rubio, a lot of them supported Ted Cruz, but they will not let it go, even though Rubio and Cruz support Trump and his initiatives. They still can't do it. And, it's detrimental to our cause. Here we are, Latinos, doing all we can, right? All we can to shave 2 or 3 points or 5 points more to the Republican side. And we're doing work. We're making calls. We're hitting the walking blocks and doing everything for candidates, right? And in the end, you've got this voter fraud mechanism put in place that just counters every good legal action that we're taking. And to me, it's a direct attack on me, on us, on you. And I'm all for. I don't care how long it takes. If it goes past our you're supposed to inauguration day, so be it. Let's get to the bottom of it. We can't move forward.
Right. I mean, the Democrats themselves, they, even though Trump won, for how many years after he won and was inaugurated, they were still like, he's not the president. He cheated, Russian interference, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously we know that was all BS, but at least for us, yes, if God forbid, Biden is inaugurated and, then we keep going, we keep fighting because, like you said, as far as, well, if our votes don't count, then, then what are we doing? That's what, as much as our grassroots needs to be trying to expand, whether it's the Latino vote or just, the voting population in general, we have to make sure and find ways to make sure that legal votes are counted. If we can find a way to, state by state make, voter ID possible, that's something I would love to do in New York, is to try to get that passed.
Go ahead, David.
It's something that I've never understood, right? And I think you guys will probably agree is we should have a federal standard. And not necessarily, and I get it that each state by state has their standards, but we should federally mandate a standard across the board for how elections are being held. Saying federally, like, this is how it's going to be held for federal elections, rather than, and then with state elections and all that, the states can go ahead and decide. But we should just say federally, hey, IDs, and mandate, hey, you'll do this, these different steps to be able to get in the voting booth and vote, right? Rather than allowing each individual state to decide U.S. House, U.S. Senate, as well as the presidency, because that's a federal election. Therefore, we should just have one standard for federal, rather than lump it all in with state elections. And that's just my personal belief. It would make sense.
Yeah, you're talking like a universal ID,
Yeah,
a
like having an
federal.
ID. Like I don't understand how that. Like I hear it all the time here. Voter suppression, right? Oh, the black community here, the Hispanic community doesn't have access to ID. Oh, it's kind of funny though. Even though the Democrats just gave all my immigrants over here or undocumented immigrants over here IDs
Yeah,
right
they
before
just
the
gave them
election.
ballots.
And then I was like, whoa, wait a moment. And nobody saw it coming. I'm like, you're going to give my undocumented immigrants IDs here. What does it stop them from next trying to make them to vote within the elections? Like the Democrats get away with this kind of stuff all the time because they play to the emotions and identity and everything else here, which I just think something's got to be done to lock in one one style of voting here for federal elections.
I remember when in I guess maybe it was Iraq or one of these Middle Eastern states, the women finally got the chance to vote,
Yeah.
and so they all walked down and they put their thumb or their finger in this inkwell, right, and they
It's
came
Afghanistan.
out and they're
Afghanistan.
Afghanistan. So they're real proud they could show that they voted. Of course, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like you. There's got to be something. Um, it's got to be real hard to vote with a mail-in ballot. I think we got to make it really hard to do that.
And sorry, I don't want to cut you guys off, but sorry, like that's another thing that highly annoyed me about this year, right? Why did we months before this general election decide to change our election laws right before we're going to do this? No, we should have not have allowed that whatsoever. And that's the time frame where I got on my Republican Party, and I said, if you are not screaming in the halls of Congress to stop this, then there's a problem within our Republican Party. We should not be changing the elections laws months before a general election at all whatsoever, because we could see this coming.
Yeah.
We could see this coming. And
Well,
yet,
and the thing is the GOPs they're very well established, and I've been across, of course, here in Texas, and different counties have different philosophies. Some counties work in unison, other counties are split. It's the state though. The state level uh, should be organizing and should want every minority Republican candidate they can get their hands on to run for an office. I'm not saying that. Look, I had someone say to me, well, the Republican Party didn't support me. Well, what do you mean by support? Well, he meant the Republican Party didn't give him any money for his campaign.
Mhm.
Well, I'm not saying that he didn't deserve the money, but not everybody deserves the money. You have to be a good candidate. You have to be someone who the party feels like if they get behind you that you can win. If they don't think you can win, you don't stand a chance to get support from the party. And I don't like that. I think that's really sad, but I also think that's where groups like ours and you've worked with Lexit. That's where we step in. That's where we say, okay, so the party's not going to do this. We've got volunteers. Give us a list, and we'll get involved in your campaign.
and I would absolutely agree with you. We saw that the 2020 election cycle, right? So when we're mentioning people like Kimberly Klasick, right? The GOP did that exact move to her. It wasn't until she went viral enough to where everybody was like, "Whoa, this woman's amazing," right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they started inviting her to the RNC, convention, to everything else. But by that time, they're months too late.
Mm-hmm.
They're months too late. And now you got to make up all that ground through media, to people on the ground, to you name it, to try to. If they would have done it in the first place, is what I'm getting at. They would have just said, "Hey, there's a declared candidate in this area. She doesn't have, opposition or not. Try to get, obviously when they're past the primary, just get behind the general election candidates. Like they're past the primary, it doesn't hurt you to support those general election candidates.
Right.
It does not hurt you at all. Now I get it. There's a primary if it's contested. You obviously, as a GOP, don't want to, make decisions there.
Mm-hmm.
But general election candidates must be supported.
Yeah,
there's no excuse to me that you can give me.
100%.
Is I almost feel like a good idea or a good strategy, whether it would be a state party or the federal or the national party, like David, like yourself, you were talking about in your race how, win or lose, you want to find a way to chip away.
Yeah.
Like, I almost feel like the GOP should look at an area where, okay, this is heavily Democratic, and what we want to do is chip away. So we are going to find the best candidate, say for a House race. Okay, so for the next three House elections, so 6 years, we're going to run this same person. And we're going to basically have that person, just keep promoting them for the next X amount of years just to try to chip away. Because if you have a good candidate like Kimberly, you could say, okay, great. It's like in 2 years, she should be running again. It's like you got to find a way to chip away. You got to say, hey, look, you didn't vote for me, 2 years ago, but look what so-and-so did over these last 2 years. Hey, remember me in 2 years ago? How about you vote for me now? It's just find a way to just chip away and just,
people get beat up. People get beat up in the process of running, and they get worn out, and unless you know that you're going to be able to fundraise and be successful, there's no such thing as winning off of you're not going to win even a state senate race with $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000. You're going to need hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so, you establish your value. You put yourself out there like you're doing, David, and you're still a ways off. You're running. Tell us about the race that you're in now, or that you're setting up for.
So I just got to give the overall history here. I call it the Boardwalk Empire, right? That's literally what I'm facing here. I'm talking about 46 years of consolidating power amongst the Democrat Party. So what we're talking about chipping away has not happened for about 46 years. The last person that won here was my county chairman. His name is Jose Ringo, right? And that goes back to the 80s, early 80s is the last time that we won here. And so everything ever since has been pure Democrat. They're like, you know what, it's just not worth it here. And they just went away from it. So there's not been a chipping away. And so we're not getting, percentages that we need to see here. The second piece of the problem that I have here is that Democrats have become, because of lack of challenge, Democrats hold multiple positions here per, so my mayor, right? The guy that I'm going against, he's the mayor and the director / police chief of his own city, on top of being the state senator. You go over to the district next to me, that mayor's the same thing, except he has 5 positions, right? And we're talking about public salary that is above the president of the United States when you add them all up together. And then you look at the city next to me. That's how my district is. You have these mayors who've condensed power so much, they can pretty much predict and tell you who's going to be the next mayor of each city, who's going to be your next congressman, who's going to be your next state senator, your assemblyman, and all that, because of a lack of challenge here. It reminds me of when I was in Afghanistan in 2008. And I was walking around, and, as we're talking to the people, the last people they ever saw were the Russians, and they thought we were Russian. And I was like, wait a minute, you got to go back to Charlie Wilson war era. That's like 1980s, right? It's the same thing when I walk around here. The last time they've seen a Republican is around the 80s. Nobody comes out here, nobody engages anybody, nobody even tries. They just give up altogether. And I just think that's just the wrong answer to neglect. If you're calling yourself a Republican Party, you do not neglect the people, regardless of whether you believe you can win, lose, or whatever. You still have Republicans here. They're looking for somebody to talk to. And even if you have Democrats here, you should be still trying to say, hey, conservatism is better than, the progressiveness that I have over here. It's not even moderate Democrats. I have progressives over here. And that's something that, that's absolutely crazy in the old school Cubans that came and fled, after the Bay of Pigs, and all that. They're over here. And to hear socialism is scaring the hell out of them. I got Venezuelans over here. I got Dominicans over here. I got Puerto Ricans. And that's mainly what my area is. But to hear socialism every single day and not have a strong Republican presence saying, "Wait a moment, no," especially from a Cuban chairman, like a Cuban chairman of the GOP here, this is what I'm up against. Is that me as a combat veteran of both the Marines and the Army, I have to stand since nobody else will stand here, or that chairman will not stand for these people. I cannot allow socialism to take over my district. I cannot allow it, and I will not allow it to happen here.
Well, it's essentially there more than likely. It's close, and we're running into um, the Lexit strike force, and that's what this is really all leading towards. People want to get involved. Maybe they want to help you. Maybe they want to help someone like Mackenzie Kelly in Austin, who's running for city council of Austin here in Texas. That is the most liberal city in our state. It is a cesspool of uh, progressive ideology. I mean, there's homeless people everywhere. There's the city is the council, the things that they do. So, that's one thing that the Lexit Strike Force can do. Our volunteers can call into her race and make a difference. When you get ready, we can call into your race and make a difference. Our strike force is majority Spanish speaking. We're bilingual. And that's a bonus when we're calling into high Latino populations districts. So, you know, if you want to get involved in a grassroots movement, the Lexit Strike Force is a great one focused on Latino voter turnout. Go to our website. Our website is lexitmovement.org. Click on the Strike Force tab and just sign up. Doesn't take but a minute. But once you do, we'll get you rolling and get you involved. We've got races, like I say, underway. There's some runoffs that we're getting involved in as well. Um, I'll give you each last thought.
I guess go ahead, Dave.
So I don't know. I'm not sure what else I could say. Just it is very frustrating. I sometimes have to take a break. Because it gets me so angry and even depressed sometimes just to see what's going on. And I really hope. And one of the reasons why I joined Lexit was a way to, because I see the Latino community, and I see, I come from, I lived in New York City and grew up in New York City. And, there's a lot of Democrats there, a lot of Latino Democrats, my family, unfortunately. And I want to change hearts and minds. And David, like you said, chip away. And there's got to be a way to, not even just phone calls, but just even going into the communities. I mean, just even if we can get the funding to open a storefront. I mean, why not? Just an old bodega, and just it just it would turn it into a Lexit bodega, and just invite people in and talk to them, and not even just to try to get them to vote Republican, but also just to help our fellow citizens. Hey, you're out of a job. Well, I know so and so. He's not only a volunteer, but he's whatever his position is. Maybe he can help you with your resume. There's a way to build the grassroots, and it's not just about vote for me. It's about, we're all Americans, and we are here to help each other, and we're here to do it not by handouts, not by getting you on welfare, and because that's I like I said, I grew up in New York City, and I saw people, healthy families, and it's like they had better sneakers than me, but all those sneakers were bought with welfare money, and I remember as a kid just scratching my head. It's like what's going on. Mm-hmm. So I just feel that I'm proud to be working with this and starting with this grassroots, because that's how we're going to change. That's how we're going to get things changed. And I real quick, I'll stop talking, but I look to our founding fathers, and they took on a world superpower and they won. That's something that we need to teach our young people, is that our country, the men and the women who started this country, they took on a world superpower, the world superpower, Great Britain, and they beat them. So whatever's going on today, we can win. You just got to stay the course.
David.
I mean, I thank Dave for that, because that's exactly, one of the reasons why I'm running here. So it has nothing to do really with, money, power, greed, or even trying to, all I want to do is help the people, right? So one of the things that I do have going on here is I will be offering, many citizenship drives, because that's actually what's hurting our people the most here, is they have no real pathways to citizenship. They're just stuck in limbo, because a lot of these courts right now, due to coronavirus, are not open, even beforehand. So I'm going out with, a bunch of attorneys, a bunch of, resources, you name it, to go out in my community and see if we can get these, or figure out each individual person's issues so we can get them to, towards citizenship. I don't think that's what I'm seeing here from the Democrats. They want to use them for that cheap labor, $2-3 an hour kind of stuff. Keep them underneath their wrap, make them go out and canvas for them, make them go and do all that. I want them to have citizenship. I want them to have the freedom to get into our economy and do what they do out here, and be Americans, right? The other thing is our business. Yeah, because of all the shutdowns, we have to find ways to really help our businesses here after all these Murphy shutdowns. I feel bad for my community, because as I walk down my famous Bergen line that's over here, where you have a lot of the Hispanic mom and pop stores that are generational, they're going out of business. They didn't get those PPP loans. They didn't get all that stuff that, big business and all that got, and Murphy doesn't care. Neither does this, incumbent or the mayors or anything like that, because it's about money, greed, and power to them. So we got to find ways over here, and that's why I'm glad Lexit, well, hopefully we can get this strike force out to my community here. Find out real ways to get these guys, and keep the hope and bring back their morale and say, hey, people are actually here because they care about you. And they don't want to use your family for votes. I got a bunch of different programs going on here. I could talk about that all day, but the point of the thing is I'm here to really help. I'm really here to fight. And one of the things that I gave to the Lexit rally this morning, and I'm going to say it again here, is we can't afford to wait another election cycle, to get up and fight, right? We have to do it now. We're seeing constitutional rights go away. We're seeing, rights, liberty, we're seeing the attack on it, right? With Second Amendment, First Amendment, mandatory mask mandates, mandatory vaccines, censorship to where you can't even come out as conservative. We have a generalized fear here where our minorities cannot say they're conservative without being doxxed, without possibly being fired, losing friendships, losing whatever. We have to stop this, right? We got to get back to a sense of normalcy where people feel okay to say that they're conservative. And I think that's a lot what's going on in our Hispanic community, is they can't say it. They can't say it out loud. They can't go out in the street and say they're a Trump supporter without fear, right? That is like that totalitarian or totalitarian style government, that if your people fear saying what they need to say, then we got serious problems.
Yeah, it was like that down. It is like that primarily on the Texas border, entrenched Democrat rule, and there's some of those counties that flipped and went red. So President Trump is no nonsense. I think that's what we all like about him. He tells us the good and the bad, and we're standing with him. I appreciate you two coming on the program tonight, sharing your thoughts about what's going on. I want to end with just a message of positive inspiration. We live on the greatest planet, the greatest country on our only planet, I guess. For now, we do have a space force, so that may change. But greatest place, anyone would want to live. United States of America. blessed with so many good things. We do have to fight to keep them. They're not just going to stay Democrats and these progressives. They want to take it and end it for us, put us under, man. They do. So thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate you, and thank you guys for joining the show. Lexit Strike Force, we're out of here.